Hello and welcome back to a slightly makeshift episode, again, which always seems to be, of the Busby Way podcast. I'm here with Chris, as per usual. Chris, how are you?
I am good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad, Tom. All right. And we've got a new face. You won't be able to recognise by his Twitter handle, but his name is Tom. Tom, how are you, mate?
I'm not bad, thank you. How are you?
Good, yes, I'm all right, Tom. Good. Well, it's been quite a pleasant week, really, this week in terms of life as a United fan, because we haven't played. So there's no negative things to talk about as per usual. Me and Chris were joking before we came on because as you can tell, my camera's not the best today. It's because my laptop's broken. My charger's broken. I'm waiting for a new charger to come, so I'm having to borrow a laptop, which is why the camera isn't great. So apologies, David. Please, no, I'm sorry. But yes, it's seems to be as United decline, my setup declines. So hopefully, when I bring it back next week, when I bring back the full ring light, mic, everything back, we should be okay. Just checking, lads, you can hear me okay? Because I don't know what the mic's like on this laptop either.
Yeah, it's perfect, mate.
It's all right. Yeah, all good. Right, okay, perfect. Right, so we'll get into it anyway. Obviously, we've spoken about, the next manager and how important it is coming up next season on this podcast countless times. There's been numerous managers rumoured throughout the time we spoke about it. I remember before Rangnick came in, we were talking about who we want. And then obviously we predicted Rangnick, and Rangnick came in. Well, me and Chris did anyway. And then now we're looking forward to the summer, and it's pretty clear we're out the Champions League. Season's pretty much finished for us, really, because I don't think we're going to get top four, really. How important is getting the right man for next season, Tom? How important is that for us to move forward into the next few seasons?
Well, I think it's vital, really, because we do need a rebuild, and we need we need quite a bit of the squad changing up, really. And I personally think that the right man to bring in is Ten Hag. I think he's used to rebuilding his Ajax team, and he's been proven to be good at that also. So for me, if I was to choose any manager in the world, to be honest, I'd genuinely go for Ten Hag.
Yeah, I agree, and that's a name that we've thrown about so many times, haven't we, Chris? Ten Hag. It seems like that's the one, doesn't it? Because obviously we were rumoured to apparently have interviewed him earlier on this week, and it was supposedly successful. The board were happy with his English and his ambitions for the club. Would you take Ten Hag, Chris?
Yeah, I've said it before. I think he seems a good fit as well, based on sort of the model that we're seemingly wanting to go down with, like a director of football, potentially. Whether that's Rangnick or somebody else remains to be seen at the minute now. But he does seem to be the strongest candidate right now. Like Tom said, he's had to do rebuilds because all the good players just seemingly move on from Ajax, don't they? And I think what's been sort of highlighted as well is a lot of the players who've moved on from Ajax don't necessarily pull up any trees when they move on. A certain Donny van der Beek springs to mind, but we're at Ajax for world beaters, and I'm not just talking in the Dutch league, but when they played in the Champions League, Ziyech was outstanding. I mean, it's sort of showing glimpses with Chelsea, and I think that clearly shows that Ten Hag's a very good coach as well, and a manager, and gets the best out of players. And I think that's the sort of personality we need. I read that one of the stumbling blocks for when he went for the Spurs job was his English. That's apparently improved massively, which sort of ticks one of the boxes. Because I think you need that really to succeed in England. I think Bielsa got away with it, really, didn't he? At Leeds.
He could speak English.
Yeah, to be fair, he definitely could, couldn't he? Yeah. But yeah, you don't see. I remember when Walter Mazzarri was at Watford, they were poor, really, and I think communication's a big thing there. But as well with Ajax, we know they've got a track record of producing their own talent, which Manchester United do. So all in all, it does seem a good fit. Obviously, the other man is sort of Pochettino, who again, you could make a strong case for him being a good fit. But all the noises seem to be Ten Hag, and I would be positive. The only sort of thing would be managing in Holland. Granted, it is with Ajax, who are a massive, massive club in their own right. It's a different ball game to the Premier League, and I think even the Champions League is a different ball game to the Premier League. The Champions League is you have open attacking teams, very few want to defend, whereas in the Premier League, you've got that toughness. You got to go to a Burnley. It's whether he can do the things that we've said so many times where we struggle to break teams down, whether he's got that acumen to help do that. So that's possibly the one doubt, but I would say that I get about all of the names that are sort of touted anyway. So, but yeah, I think the strong thing is it looks like it's going to be Ten Hag. The main thing is if they want Ten Hag, go get him signed, sealed, delivered ASAP so we can get a pre-season to sign some players and start the rebuild.
To play devil's advocate, Chris, you mentioned there about him, it's a different ball game, and I'll play devil's advocate with you. Pochettino was heavily criticised this week, and everyone was like, oh, we don't want Pochettino because he went out of the Champions League with PSG. But didn't Ten Hag also?
Yeah.
And arguably to a far worse opposition. I know he doesn't have the same facilities Pochettino does, but, isn't that, to play devil's advocate, isn't it? Maybe the criticism that Pochettino got this week was unfair.
Yeah, I think it is a fair point because, unless Benfica go and win the Champions League, it looks It looks as though Ajax have probably gone out too early and would probably, because Benfica play Liverpool, and I think Ajax would have given Liverpool a game. Benfica could well give Liverpool a game. But yeah, it's possible. But obviously, I think the expectations on PSG to go and win the Champions League, not so much Ajax. Even though, like I said, Ajax are a massive club and have been successful in Europe in recent years. Yeah, it is a bit strange how all that has been labelled at Pochettino in literally the same week that Ten Hag it's happened with Ajax.
I just thought it was quite weird how it was heavily spoken about Pochettino, but no one said anything when it came to Ten Hag. I just thought it was a bit strange.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is just the fact that PSG going out in the first knockout round again. Really, so it's a massive failure.
The players that PSG have got, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah.
But speaking of going out the Champions League, United did also go out the Champions League. Just to backtrack and to remind you both of that dismay that we witnessed at Old Trafford. I managed to get a ticket to it, Chris, and I wish I hadn't done.
I'm glad I didn't.
Oh, I know, but anyway, yeah, Tom. Do you think United almost dodged? I know there was a few people saying we almost dodged a bullet going out to Atletico Madrid because we would have got City in the next round. Do you think we almost did dodge a bullet?
I don't believe so. No, I feel like if you're in a competition, then you've got to beat the best teams to win it. So at the end of the day, obviously City's an unbelievable side, but anyone can beat anyone on the day. We saw that kind of with Benfica and Ajax. Referring back to it, if you look at the statistics of the game, Ajax completely dominated them. And it was one set piece, I think, that kind of...
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Made Benfica win the game. So it's one of those things that I'd rather go to the next round and lose to City than lose to Atletico in the last round. So that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, fair. No, fair. I suppose that's a fair enough opinion, actually. We said before we were previewing that game, the team that we wouldn't want, the two teams we wouldn't want was City and Liverpool, and obviously that's who we would have ended up with. But like you say, you have to beat the best, to win the competition, and eventually you would have had to cross one of those teams if you wanted to win it. Obviously, given unless they both go out to other teams, but that's highly unlikely. There was conversation this week, Tom, about. Just going back to Ten Hag and the next season with United. Sorry, that was just a little side note with the City thing. They mentioned about Ten Hag's number 2, or whoever this new manager is, number 2 coming in, and a few names were thrown about. But it also came out that they want an ex-player as the number 2, and I get why, but I also don't get why. I don't understand why. And there was a few names of Rio, Robin van Persie, Ruud van Nistelrooy, I think, were thrown around. Well, what do you make of that?
Well, personally, I think you've got to... When you bring in a manager, you kind of want to bring the whole of the backroom staff with him that's obviously been with him while he's been successful. So, in my opinion, I feel that I don't agree really with bringing in an ex-player almost for the sake of it, if you know what I mean. I'd much rather him bring in who he's tried and trusted with, and has been successful with.
No, well, Rio seemed to shut it down straight away on Twitter as well, didn't he? He seemed to come out and say, I can't remember what he said. It was something like put himself forward with loads of laughing face. Apparently that's what the reports were. You're in agreement that you think he should bring his Ajax board with him, Chris? Do you think that's what he should do?
Yeah.
Not board, sorry, team, not board.
Yeah,
team,
I think obviously it's good to know the people you're working with, and if you've got something good, continue it. And but maybe ultimately, the decision should be Ten Hag's. He should work with who he wants to work with. But I also do think there does need to be someone at some point, in whether it's part of the coaching team, management team, or higher up, that knows the club inside out, knows the philosophies, know what it's all about. I think, a director of football probably would be the person. And let's face it, there's a perfect candidate, Edwin van der Sar, who's worked with Ten Hag and knows Manchester United inside out. So
how many times have we dropped that name? How many times have we dropped that one?
I know, it's every other week. But he would be perfect for that sort of role. But I think Ruud van Nistelrooy is an interesting one though, because he's been tipped possibly for the Eindhoven job. So it would be a coup if Ten Hag wanted to bring him in, because obviously there's the sort of the Dutch connection, but then there's the fact that he knows Manchester United, and I think I think the fans would love to see an ex-player on the touchline, shouting at players, telling Rashford to pass properly and whatnot. But if you're going to do that, it's got to be the right person, hasn't it? It's got to fit the culture, and it's got to fit where the coach, the manager, wants to go with it. It's a difficult balance. I agree with Tommy. It shouldn't be for sort of the sake of doing it. If it's a happy marriage to get an ex-player into the coaching staff, great, but don't force it. I think potentially boardroom level might be the better alternative. We've said many times, like an Edwin van der Sar type person. The maybe obviously got Darren Fletcher. Maybe there's a role sort of up there for him, because he's technical advisor or something. He's not actually a coach.
Not a clue.
Yeah.
You just don't really know with him. So, but I think it does help having somebody there with the club DNA there, which helps. But don't force it. Would be my thing.
Well, the other name that mentioned was Van Persie. I think he's a coach at Feyenoord, if I'm right. He was assistant at Feyenoord last season. He's now officially a coach. So either, like you say, both the Dutch connection, which is the obvious thing, but they're both actually have got some coaching credibility. So who knows? Speaking of moving up, nice little segue there for me, Chris. Thank you. When you were talking about the board, you've helped me out there. Speaking of moving up to, up to a higher position, Ralph Rangnick's supposed to go into a consultancy role. That was what the contract was signed, and well, supposedly anyway, that was reported when he became interim manager for Man United. Do you trust him, Tom, to make the decisions in the future of Manchester United in the next 2 years? Simply.
Well, based on his track record and the way he almost transformed Leipzig, I don't see why not.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest.
Yeah.
He's smart with his. If he has a say in, the signings and the way things are run, and if he is going to decide the next manager, which apparently he's meant to have a big role in doing that, then I think I don't see why we shouldn't trust him with it.
Well, because we said as well on this, obviously me and Chris have spoke before about this, and we've said Rangnick came in, and we don't understand why the players have kicked off at Rangnick, because Rangnick came in knowing he was going to go to a 2-year consultancy role, so he'll know who he wants to be starting for him next season, and he'll know who he wants to get rid of. So surely with him moving up to a high position, that puts United in a better stead because that new manager can then go, well, what's the current format like? And he can then put on the table and say, well, this is what I think. This is what I think should go. Listen to it if you want, but I've been here for X amount of months. Yeah. So I think having that expertise massively helps United going into next season, into their rebuild. And then also, speaking of rebuilds, do you know what? I'm on it today, Chris. Really,
this.
Speaking of rebuilds, there was a lot of rumours flying around this week about Old Trafford and Old Trafford's renovations. And for me, right, I was thinking about this midweek, and I was of the opinion there's always going to be the people that cling on to Old Trafford, and I'm one of them. I'm one of these people. I think you shouldn't knock down a stadium with that history. But then I also thought, am I only kicking off because it's the Glazers who proposed it? If it was anyone else who proposed it, I'd be saying yes, because how many times have I come on this podcast and complained about the roof leaking? And how many times have I come on this podcast and said it's run down and we're miles behind City because it's not good enough? So, I'll ask you, Chris, because obviously we've spoken about this. Do you think that that's maybe the case? A lot of people are maybe anti it because it's the Glazers who proposed it.
I think that's an interesting take on it. I really do, actually. Yeah. I think there could be a bit of it. But then again, Old Trafford is... What you would say is, would Liverpool knock down Anfield? No. Wow. So United really probably wouldn't do the same with Old Trafford. But then again, Spurs obviously knocked down White Hart Lane and basically built it again. And let's face it, it's the best stadium in the world for me in terms of the facilities, though. It looks incredible. So there's those arguments. But I think Old Trafford is one of the most iconic stadiums in the world. And when you see what, you say the same about the Bernabeu. And now Real Madrid, because I know people have said the Bernabeu was getting run down. So what they're doing, they're not rebuilding it. They're modernising it and turning it into an absolute gem.
Right, yeah.
Same
with the Camp Nou.
Yeah. If it was, say, a building in city centre, let's face it, it would have sort of like heritage status where it couldn't be built down because it's important to the community. And, it's got historical significance. And I say this for Old Trafford, for Anfield, the Bernabeu. There's certain places which should not be demolished. Yes, modernise them to make sure they're meeting current needs. But United's issue is that there's not, in terms of making it bigger, there's not much more they can do. There's the bit, there's extending one stand, but 3 of the stands are probably as high as they could go, realistically. Yeah. So in terms of capacity, there's always going to be a limit. And because of the geography around it as well, it's difficult to do too much to it.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think, really, does it need much more than just going, you know what, that roof's a bit leaky, fix it, make it shiny. You look at, say, Newcastle's roof at St James's Park, that's like an iconic landmark within itself.
Yeah.
Can United just make a really modern, elegant looking roof to replace the one that's there and leaking? Can we, give it all a good lick of paint on it on the outside? Can certain bits be just done up? You can do so many things with modern technology now to make all things look nice. So just do that for me. I don't think there's too much. Maybe the outsides of the stadium make it more modern and appealing to the commercial side of things. Obviously, football's not necessarily about that, but can there be more stuff that, like a fan zone and stuff like that, outside of the ground, rather than just knocking it down and building it again? I don't think that's the way forward. I genuinely think, yes, it might be the more expensive option to actually fix what's already there than rip it up, start again. But I think nostalgia, history, and what Old Trafford represents is more important than it being the most modern, beautiful stadium in the world. I think there's a lot more to it. And the thing is, once it's gone, it's gone. It's not going to be the same. Whereas, Tottenham needed to do that to become a big team. Granted, it's not happened. But yeah, I'm one of those. I've got too much nostalgia about it. I'd be very disappointed to see it rebuilt. I think you can do a lot in the way that Real Madrid have done. I think that's the model we've got to go down for me.
What's your take on it, Tom? What are your thoughts on it?
I completely agree with Chris. I think just a bit of renovation, really, and like I say, tidy it up, clean it up. Could make it a bit more modern, but you can't just knock down and completely, rebuild a new stadium with all the history and what it means to the city as well. I just don't think you can.
No, it's true, isn't it? Because think about that money that's going to be put into it, and they won't knock it down because they won't want to spend that much money. Let's be realistic.
And I think one of the things as well, if you rebuild it, if you knock it down, Tottenham had the luxury of having Wembley on the doorstep. Where are we going to play? We're not playing at City.
I reckon
I'd rather play at Bury.
We play at the Etihad, I reckon. It's not their stadium anyway.
That wouldn't go down well.
It's not their stadium anyway. The council.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, to be fair, but nah.
Well, that's true. No, I must admit, yeah, that would be the massive hurdle that a lot of people as well would be, furious over. Well, I mean, do you know what? I'm on fire here today, Chris, because you know exactly what's coming up next. But speaking of being not happy with the owners, there's we need like a counter. We need a counter up here that just says how many segues we've got in here today. But yeah, there's been this new group that have cropped up on Twitter called the 1958. I hate it. I can't stand these videos that they're putting together. It's just so. Oh, I don't know the word. I know the word, but I can't. I'm not allowed to say it on here. It's just. I just don't like it. And I'm behind the message. Don't get me wrong. I'm behind the message of the process, but I don't like the way it's been delivered on Twitter. For the context, there's a group on Twitter called the 1958 that's supposedly organising a brand new protest for the Glazers against Chelsea on May the 15th, which happens to be my 21st, which will be fantastic if it goes ahead. But it probably won't because Chelsea will get into the FA Cup final and our game will get moved to midweek, so it won't happen. But what are your thoughts on it, Tom? Because obviously there was the big one in May of last year when we got the game called off against Liverpool, and then the second one, which was against Liverpool, and there was so many police there. I've never seen so many police in an area before. What do you think it's the right thing to do, or do you think it's maybe some United internet fans looking for an excuse to protest just because United aren't doing well at the minute?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I'm going to refer back to the Liverpool game last season, and although it did stop the game and everyone was talking about it, it was everywhere. I'm going to open it up to you two. Do you honestly think that the Glazers actually they care?
No, not at all.
Simple. No.
They don't care, do they?
No, they never have. It's a money making thing, and the thing is, right? What frustrates me about Man United fans is they did it last year and they're going to do it again this year. Back end of the season, they'll protest. There'll be no more home games that they can protest at. So what will happen is the Glazers will go and make a few signings in the summer and everyone will forget about it when it comes around to the summer. And it's the same vicious cycle that keeps happening every single year. And it's so frustrating. But don't get me wrong, if there's a protest, I will be going to it because I support the cause. But it just looks to me as every single year, it seems to be this pattern that my United fans are falling into. And I don't want them to fall into it and get known for it. Oh, it's not going our way, so let's get the scarves out. Let's get the Norwich scarves out. Because that's what everyone says on Twitter. What's your thoughts on it, Chris?
Yeah, I'm a bit similar. And like Tom said, I think it is a bit of both. And I also think, obviously last time there was troublemakers who just wanted to go there and cause an issue. And you've got to be so careful that doesn't happen again because it just dilutes the whole point of the protest. And I get what you said there, Kai, about, if you leave it to the last game of the season, then there's no sort of knock-on effect. It's purely a case of it's in transfer window and they can redeem themselves with a couple of good signings. It's got to be sort of an ongoing one from start of the season right through to the end of the season, making a point, voting with your feet sort of thing, maybe be like, well, 80th minute in this game, we're all going to walk out, blah, 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 or we boycott this game completely. Those things, where that actually might make a noticeable difference. Because, if nobody buys a ticket for the game, then Glazers don't get any money.
You're always going to get people buying tickets to that get to
Yeah,
United.
The thing is, United will sell out every week because it's a popular tourist destination, and we all know that the Premier League is a worldwide sport now, so you will always get that, and it's such a massive fan base. But I just think doing it again last time made absolutely no difference whatsoever.
I disagree there. I disagree. I think they actually spent money in the summer to shut us up.
Yeah, but come on, it's not worked, has it?
Well, no.
On the pitch and off the pitch. So, it's just, like I say, I think it's just frustrating that because there is clearly a correlation of, we're not performing well. So the frustrations are high again. If you're doing this protest, ultimately people outside of the United fan base will instantly say, "Oh, you weren't doing this when you were winning." Yeah, we were. We were doing it when we won the Champions League. Don't forget that, lads. But you always think of the here and now, don't you? If we're protesting when we're 4-0 up against Liverpool, then yeah, fair enough. That seems like a world away. But
so what
that's
are you on,
point.
Chris?
I'm in a good mood today, Kai.
I'd take a win over Liverpool. Never mind.
This is what not having a game to talk about either side does for the vibe here.
You're happy to put United shirt on for once.
I know, yeah. But yeah, I think if we're going to protest, do it sensibly as well. Don't ruin it like last time. But I just don't think there's going to be too much notice taken, like Tom said, about the Glazers because they just don't care. If unless the share price collapses, they don't give a hoot. So yeah.
I mean, the message that we're trying to get across is the right message. 100%. It's just the way we do it that's the issue.
But it's how you do it as well to actually make them notice, because the only way you're going to make them notice, like Chris said, is in not buy tickets or make their pockets hurt. But because United is such big of a tourist attraction, they know that'll never happen because there will always be someone who will put money into that club. Always. If the first 75,000 people said, "I'm not going to United this weekend," there's another 75,000 people waiting in the wing. They will always. Yeah. They just know that the way to get rid of them would be to make the pockets hurt. But how you do that, beyond me, because we'd have done it by now. I think if there was a simple answer.
If we knew, we'd be millionaires and we'd be buying it.
Well, do you know what, Chris? We need to get that GoFundMe page up. Off air, the other week we were talking about. Do you remember, Tom, when Ronaldo was at Real Madrid in his prime in about 2012, 2013, and there was this rumor going around that he had the buyout clause of £100 million, and someone started up the fundraising page where everyone put in a tenner. And it was all going to go to United so we could buy Ronaldo back and triggers release. Do you remember it?
I vaguely remember it, yeah.
Where did that money go? Did that money go?
Someone got a nice holiday.
Well, that's a nice holiday. They bought a nice house, probably. You probably put a nice deposit on a nice house.
In Barbados.
How much was it? I don't remember.
Essentially that was what it was, and we had a look. When we went off air, we mentioned it as we were talking, as we were about to come off air. When we went off air, we spoke about it, and we said we googled it and found the link, and it's just some Ronaldo housing. It's called Ronaldo's housing tips or something like that, and it's some bloke just writing articles about the best plants for your cats and stuff. So either the URL's been changed or he's just absolutely having a giggle and just changed it and just winding everyone up. So we said we're going to start one we're going to start a GoFundMe page to bring Haaland to Manchester United. We're going to treat Haaland's 60 million release clause this summer, and we're going to split the cash accordingly when it evidently doesn't happen. I'd rather just given our plan away on air. No, so essentially that was a plan. But like I've said there, Haaland has got his buyout clause, his 60 million buyout clause. Obviously, we aren't going to get him because why would you want to come to Manchester United in this current state? But in terms of bringing people in, Tom, I'll speak to you first. Who would you bring in the summer? You know, we've talked about United needing this massive rebuild, and obviously Sanai got all his contacts at Ajax. Who would you want to see in a United shirt next season if you were to make United better, or to improve the current state of United, which wouldn't take much?
I mean, I'm going to go for positions rather than specific players. So I think everyone knows the main position we need is the number 6. We need a DM. We need someone who can set the tempo of the game, control it, obviously do the defensive work also, like we see with Rodri at City, you see with Fabinho at Liverpool, that you take them out of the team and obviously they're the quality, but they don't look as good. They don't look as secure. And I feel like the back four definitely needs that protection. And we don't have a player in the squad other than Matic who can play that role. And obviously Matic is past it. So that's
the nice way of saying it. Yeah, that's the polite way of saying it.
So that would be the first position I go for. And then obviously we need a centre forward. We need a goal scorer who's young, energetic, probably a dynamic striker who can hold up the ball and link other players in like Sancho and Bruno and that type of thing.
What if I was to ask you for a few names, who would you say?
DM, I think Ruben Neves would be a good fit. Rummenigge, obviously Rice, but his price tag's pretty hefty. Striker, you got Darwin Núñez from Benfica. You've got Osimhen potentially.
Abraham today.
Yeah, but I saw, didn't Roma put a 100 million price tag on him or something?
Yeah, it's not ridiculous. That's Mourinho, isn't it? That's classic Mourinho, isn't it? Really.
If somebody pays £100 million for him, then he'd give their head a wobble.
Yeah, well, you could be like you say, West Ham's price tag will be huge on Rice, and I read this morning that it'd probably be upwards of 150 million. And his preference is still to go to Chelsea because he admitted he was a boiled Chelsea fan. But obviously, given the current circumstances of Chelsea, they aren't spending that money anytime soon.
They aren't signing anybody.
They're not signing that anytime soon. So yeah, I mean, you put some good names out there, and one that I haven't actually thought of is Núñez from Benfica. He'd be a decent option, I think, going forward. I think he'd be a great option as a striker. Actually, I hadn't thought about him. What about you, Chris? Obviously, we've said, Tom's just said there that we need a central midfielder striker, and he's not wrong. Is there anywhere else you think that maybe we need to improve on?
What I'll say first is that £150 million for Declan Rice I'd pay tomorrow because did you watch him against Sevilla?
It's not like me and my mate were having a chat yesterday. I don't care what we pay for him. It don't come out of my back pocket. It don't come out of my back pocket.
Oh, he's brilliant, Declan Rice. I think he's outstanding. But yeah, I think in terms of other positions, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking goalkeeper. I was talking to my mate the other day, and I hadn't noticed this before. He showed me clip after clip after clip. But when was the last time David De Gea came for a cross and you thought he was getting there? He stays on his line so much. It's like now I've seen it, I'm like, I have not spotted it before. But he's I think he's been a great shot stopper, but the other elements of his game are not the highest level. The main core bit of being a goalkeeper, saving shots, is still right up there. But I think we would probably be market for a goalkeeper because I think Daniel Henderson's off. He's not hanging around, is he? Unless he's been given the number 1 shirt, he's off skis, and probably to like Newcastle somewhere. So I think a goalkeeper, but it's that's a difficult one to get right. I think so. And there's nobody really.
There is out there at the minute.
Yeah, there's nobody who massively springs to mind.
I mean, one that everyone's been mentioning or they want is Sarr from Wolves. That's a name.
Yes, Jose Sarr is, and I think you could get him decent
might
money.
be not a bad shout. Onana from Ajax if Ten Hag ends up coming.
Yeah.
Young, keeper,
Yeah.
good
And I think
keeper.
as well, it's interesting to keep tabs on the Chelsea situation because, if their future's looking bleak, they're all jumping ship, aren't they? Let's face it. So I'd be tapping up Kante right now. Put him in our midfield. It's a different complexion. Him and Rice in there would be superb. Tony Rudiger.
You are in a good mood today.
I know, yeah. Tony Rudiger. He's going on a free. Surely you just go for him as a free.
I think he's done you there, though, isn't he?
Yeah.
Why you won't be in for him though?
Yeah, you got to be in for him. Surely this is, you surely should just have a dedicated team looking at who's going to be a free agent you can get for nothing. Because I think centre half is a position we need to look at because it's been a problem situation. Fullbacks,
you take Reece James.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I'd take most of the Chelsea squad.
Mendy,
I'd take Mendy.
Just have more. Just buy the club out.
Yeah, well, that's what I do. It'll buy them out so we can get all the players and then just give it to like the fans or something like that. It's all right. You can start in National League.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, on a serious note, I think centre half is another position. I do think fullbacks. I've not been convinced by any fullback this season. So unless they book up their ideas, I think there's go for that. Especially like when we was in for Trippier, weren't we? And we was saying, Kai, that Trippier would have been a good sign. He goes to Newcastle. Yeah, he's only played 3 games, but he looked absolutely boss in those 3 games. So Tariq Lamptey from Brighton, I really like him as a player. He looks like a real asset, and I think I think he would be as good as what we have, if not better. Especially with a bit of development under his belt as well. And then I think it's basically a entire new spine into it, really. We think potentially could get a goalkeeper, centre back, centre mid, centre forwards. But like centre forwards now, there's so many around that aren't centre forwards. That's the issue, and I think you need a number 9.
A number 9, like an out and out number 9.
United play with a number 9. They always have. You would, unless you change the system and go and play like Liverpool and City do. You need that focal point. So whether you try and get Kane out of Tottenham, for a sort of short term fix, but one that would probably have this similar sort of impact to Van Persie in terms of guaranteed goals. Bit of a wild card would possibly be Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because I think you could get him fairly cheap and he could do the link-up stuff. I think you would need the players around him to score more goals, because I don't think he's going to get you 20 goals a season, but I think he'd score 10, 15 and set up a few.
Screams of another Martial that for me, Chris. Another Martial there.
Maybe. I think I was watching Match of the Day Top 10 earlier, and he was doing like number 10s, and they mentioned some players, and you're thinking, I love him at United now, like Teddy Sheringham. Obviously, we had him, and it was brilliant. And well, you just have to look at Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer. We're crying out for one of those type players, aren't you? Because there's no real number 9s, and I think that is what we need. Even if we go down a route of trying to play like City, I've said it all season that I think if City don't win the league, it'll be because they've not got a number 9 to score the goals. Drew 0-0 with Palace, didn't they? Because they didn't have a number 9 tapping it in. You need a tapping merchant to score your goals every now and again.
What about Falcao? Springs to mind.
He should have been a tapping merchant. He should have been great.
Odin Gallo is another one that I think City might be to tempt away.
To be fair, I loved Gallo.
Oh, it was great.
His goal, was it the Europa League against
the last one we scored. The last one we scored. Was it
incredible?
The last one? Yeah. Last one we got for lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember being at a game where Fred and Igalo both scored and losing my absolute... that was what a day that was. But yeah, to come back to the question, it's an entire new spine could be needed.
Yeah.
But I think you build that around Declan Rice. I think if you put Declan Rice and I think Neves, you know, you probably have to spend best part of 200 million quid to get those two as a centre mid partnership. But I think if you got those, that's your partnership for the next 5-10 years, isn't it? And that is one that will only get better.
Yeah.
Again, there's a few Wolves play. Sarr, Neves, Neto.
Yeah.
Take all of them from Wolves.
Oh yeah.
What have we come to when we want to sign Wolves players?
Buy them out as well. Buy them out. Take them over as well.
To be fair, Kilman, the young centre half. I mean, he looks better than Maguire most of the time. I quite like him.
I think Phil Jones looks better than Maguire at the minute.
Maguire will probably have a stormer on a Saturday night for England, and then we'll be
he's back. There's no pressure. He'll do that knee slide celebration where he's like that with his fingers in his ears. That's what he'll end up doing.
Roy Keane will slate him in the post match, and then he's back to square one.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle with Maguire, unfortunately. But it's weird. Like we were saying, I think personally, for me, it's form because you look at it a year ago, this time last year, and the reason we lost that Europa League final is because we didn't have Maguire. So how can someone fall from so much grace? What do you make of it, Tom? What do you make of Maguire?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Is he good enough? Would you have him as captain?
I definitely wouldn't have him as captain.
Right.
I never seem to see it on the pitch that he's commanding or he's demanding, more from the rest of the team. I just think he's so clumsy. And obviously the big issue with Maguire is the lack of pace. I mean, and agility. You can't play a high line with Maguire or you'll just get punished time and time again. So
I mean, like you say, the pace is the big issue, and it's also he just seems to have recently actually he wasn't too bad on the ball, this time last year, but recently he's just got the turning circle of he just has a turning circle of a tractor. He just seems to take ages for him to turn and pass the ball. There was the one that stands out to me against Atletico when he got the ball, took him about 5 minutes to turn, and then he turned back. Took him 5 more minutes, and by that time he had a swarm of players around him. He ended up giving it back to De Gea, who gave it away. Which that's not talked about as well when you talk about keeper, Chris. The distribution of De Gea, that's dreadful as well.
See, I've got something on that De Gea distribution.
Go on then.
Yeah.
Go on.
I think that the midfield and the centre backs hide from the ball.
Okay.
So every time, I don't know, I was watching against Atletico, and every time the ball was played back to De Gea, like I was looking to see what options does he actually have other than to kick it.
Yeah.
And it happens quite a bit, especially with McTominay when he plays in that 6. He never drops in to receive the ball. I don't know if he's not comfortable or, we know he's not brilliant on the ball anyway, but I kind of feel bad for De Gea because, like I say, I feel like they're just hiding from him and they're not, checking in to receive the ball to turn out and play. But that's just my opinion.
You keep him, Tom.
I think he's the least of our worries at the moment. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I must admit, I am. When you said that, Chris, about keeper, I was a bit intrigued. I was intrigued actually to see why. But you have a point because the backups are working. Maybe not a first team keeper, but
yeah, I think we've got to think if you can get competition and genuine competition, it's only going to be better. And I think possibly we need to start thinking long term. If there's a good up and coming keeper, the challenging. But I think the point Tom makes. I suppose if you solve that issue, and De Gea is still not able to distribute, then you very much go in on De Gea's distribution there. And I suppose if he's got a better equipped defence in front of him, maybe he's not going to be as prone to errors and whatnot. So I get Tom's point in terms of it's lower down the priority list, But I would also say if the right goalkeeper comes available to be the successor, then why not? But yeah, it would be further down the list. I think, priority is, centre mid, probably centre forward, then centre back. Because I think we can outscore teams if we do that. Because I don't think we're ever going to keep enough clean sheets to be title contenders anyway. So yeah, centre mid, centre forward, centre back, goalkeeper. Well, probably full backs, goalkeeper actually. Are the
team?
Yeah, just sign 20 players. Just start again. Keep Bruno.
One to get rid of, I think, in my opinion, is Pogba. He was talked. Well, he was talked about a lot in the media. He talked a lot in the media this week. Would you keep him next season, Tom? Pogba?
See, this is a difficult question because we always come back to on his day, or he has the ability, and we've seen it with France. But when Pogba's always been at his best as a player, it's been when he's had someone to almost hold his hand and let him do his thing. So with France, he had Kante. Juve, he kind of had Pirlo or Vidal or Marquisio to kind of steady the ship while he did his own thing.
Well, another one.
So I don't know. It's hard because last under Ollie, he was playing as almost a left winger, like an inverted winger. But I don't know. I don't know.
Would you offer him a new deal?
I wouldn't offer him a long-term deal, but I think I'd offer him a deal to see how he played under a new manager, and if we did sign a DM, to see how he played in that formation or system.
Yeah. What do you make, Chris, of his comments that he made in the media? Because we've often said with Pogba, it's his agent who does all the talking, but now he's come out and done some of the talking, and it's not been positive. What do you make of it?
Yeah, I just think he's very Pogba in it, really.
Yeah.
I think that sums it up. To be fair, it's difficult to sort of know fully whether to assume it's him or whether it's his agent, because, like you say, his agent's notorious for it. But I just think all the signs are pointing to the fact that he wants out as much as anything. And I would not be disappointed. I think the biggest disappointment would be that we don't get any money back for him. Should really be requesting a refund because he wasn't as described, was he? Wasn't worth the 80 million quid or whatever we paid for him in terms of his performances. Tom hit nail on the head on his day.
Yeah. He's
brilliant. But when is his day? It's like every other Tuesday at best, isn't it? It's just,
yeah.
But yeah, I think it would just be sod's law. He'll go and sign for. I mean, I've seen him linked with Villa and Newcastle. I mean, he'd probably go there and score 20 goals. I would just be like, oh no, what have we done? But then again, I could see him going there and not get a kick. I mean, if he goes to Newcastle, Joel Linton's ahead of him anyway. So
the Longstaff twins.
Shelby, he's ahead of Pogba. Pogba don't get in that Newcastle team. I don't think he gets that.
Those Premier League squads are teams that were supposed to be, because they said there were 2 or 3 that were rumoured in it.
Yeah, the ones I saw were Newcastle and Villa. I mean, obviously Newcastle have the money now to attract a Pogba headline grabbing player. Yeah. But, maybe that's what he needs. I don't know. Maybe it just has to play in black and white stripes.
I'm surprised at Villa.
I mean, Villa are quite ambitious, though. I mean, they managed to blag Coutinho, didn't they? So, and all the suggestions are they might be able to keep him. But I think Pogba to somewhere like PSG just seems more realistic to me. I think he'd love it back in France, where nobody gets anywhere near him to kick him, and then he just don't perform in the Champions League, which
he's got that. Well, obviously, there was all that stuff that came out and said he'd never play PSG because his family are from Marseille, aren't they? So there's obviously that big rivalry.
Right.
But
maybe I think he'll play for Marseille then.
he would play for PSG. You know what Pogba's like. Anywhere there's money. And it would save face for PSG if Mbappe does go on a free this summer. They could say, bring in
and
Pogba.
he's one of the big names in his own country.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, I still remember he basically lost France that round of 16 tie against Switzerland. Yeah. Stuck one in the top bin, but he gave it away last minute, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And I mean, to be fair, against that, was it? I saw a clip when they were playing. I think it was Southampton.
Right.
Where he turns on the edge of our box and gives it away within 2 seconds.
Was that handball he did as well? Do you remember that? Give away the penalty.
Oh, against West Ham.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that, isn't there?
That was very Pogba-ish, wasn't it?
Yeah, but then again, I remember when he turned it on in the derby and was excellent. That's Pogba in it. That is it. But yeah, I wouldn't offer him a new contract. But if we do, then just say you can have him for 30 million quid and just so we can get some money in.
Yeah.
But
agreed.
The main thing is though, if a player doesn't want to be there, then they can go, and it doesn't matter what player it is, because you want a player that'll stay and play for the badge, don't you? Yeah. And the thing with me is, like, there's no doubt in his quality and what he can be, and I think that's where I've got an issue, because I know how good he is. I've seen how good he is. So to let him go on a free just seems like madness.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. Right, well, we'll wrap it up there anyway, lads, because we've talked longer than we normally do. Anyway, it shows what when there's three of us that we can just blabber on for as long as we really want to. I'll wrap it up as well, because I've just seen a tweet that's come on my feed. Steven Gerrard in a Liverpool training kit. He's recorded a video, and I know they're saying it's for a charity match, but if I was a Villa fan, I don't know what I'd think about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think. I'll show you here. Look, I don't know if you can see that.
Especially middle of the season.
Yeah, very odd. Very, very strange. But
Liverpool win the league
with that. Put him.
Has Villa got to play Liverpool or City?
Oh, I don't know.
Trying to think now.
Shall I have a look? Do you want me to have a look quickly?
Yeah.
Gerrard comes on and kicks it in his own net.
Oh, can you imagine? Villa fixtures. Hang on, let me have a look. Yes, they do. They do. It was the postponed fixture.
Oh.
Conspiracy theories alive.
There we go. They're starting to come about now. Right, anyway, we'll wrap that up there, lads. Thank you for joining us, Chris and Tom. Hopefully we can have you back, Tom, in the future. Hopefully you want to come back. We haven't scared you off.
No, definitely.
But yeah, thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out all the content on the local TV channels. It's not just the Manchester TV channel. There's all the other ones. There's Bristol, there's Leeds. Make sure you check them all out. And it's not just football content that goes out. There's plenty of other content that goes out on Facebook, the Twitter, and the YouTube. So go have a look. Go find your local area and get involved. We'll be back probably similar time. Oh, not similar time next week. Not at all, because we normally do a Sunday or Monday, don't we? And we're doing a Friday episode today. So it feels weird. It'll feel like we're going back to work tomorrow, and we're not. We're actually finishing for the weekend. But, will United have played this time next week?
We'll have played the weekend of the second.
Yeah, so we'll probably be back next Sunday then, won't we? Yeah. We'll be back next Sunday. So we'll be back next Sunday evening or Monday evening, either or. You'll get the notification for the scheduling. I am now waffling. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you check out next week's podcast and have a look if there's any other content on Facebook channels. And goodbye, Chris. Are you all right to